Call the meeting to order. Freeport Town Council meeting number 13-23. Town Council Chambers in 30 Main Street Town Hall in Freeport. It is Tuesday, June 20th, and it's just a few minutes after 6 p.m. Before we start our agenda, let's find out who's here. Councilor Pillsbury. Present. Councilor Fournier.
Here.
Councilor Lawrence. Here. Councilor Daniele.
Here.
Councilor Bradley.
Here.
And the chair, John Egan, is here. Chair Dan Pilch is excused this evening, is traveling. I will be coordinating the meeting for Dan in his absence this evening. No nostalgia, just I remember how to do it, but that's about it. So, all right, our first order of business actually is to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our next item is to waive the reading of the minutes, so carefully documented, of meeting number 12-23 held on June 6th, 2023, and presented in your packets.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to waive the reading of the minutes. Any more comments? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we have waived the reading of the minutes. Thank you, Chris. I'm not sure which end you're sitting on. Okay, our next item is announcements. I have a few to read, and we can add on to those afterwards. Please be advised that Nathan Nye Street from Main Street, approximately 420 feet back, will be closed on June 24th and 25th for the Maine Oyster Festival. That's next weekend. The new and renewal application for the Senior Citizens Tax Stabilization Program should be available sometime in August 2023 from the state. I'm sorry, but no further information is available at this time. Residents can go to the Freeport Assessors page at freeportmaine.com/assessor to sign up with their email address, and we'll send you an update from the assessing department as soon as that information comes out from the state of Maine. When the new application is available, the assessing office will send a copy by mail to everyone who signed up. So if you have a question about the senior citizen tax stabilization, just get in touch with our assessor and you get on a list, and then you'll find out the information as soon as we do. The town's climate action planning process is underway, and there are many opportunities for residents and businesses to get involved and shape the plan. If you missed the first community workshop for this project in May, you can view the event materials and participate in virtual versions of the workshop activities on the Climate Action Planning website. That's freeportclimateaction.org. We invite you to share your ideas, priorities, and concerns by taking the survey, visiting the interactive display in the library lobby, or reaching out to Meddy Smith, our sustainability coordinator, at msmith@freeportmaine.com. Meddy's email is msmith, no spaces, at freeportmaine.com. Our popular summer reading programs for kids and adults began on June 12th. We have lots of great prizes and challenges in store. Please visit freeportlibrary.com for more information. That's the announcements I have. Anybody else have any announcements? Councilor Bradley.
Yeah, it's with great pleasure I announce that the RSU 5 Freeport High School girls lacrosse team won the state championship yesterday at Portland Stadium. They beat NYA in a spirited game, 7-5. It was a great game. Everybody played well. It was not a game that was lost. It was a game that was won, and it's been since 1991 since the girls won the state championship in lacrosse. I talked a little bit with John before the meeting, and I know there are other teams that have done well this spring, and what we were thinking with council approval would be that we would do a team recognition night soon and bring representatives from all of them in and thank them for them and applaud them and maybe have cookies or something. Is that okay?
That sounds good.
Good. That's my announcement.
Great. Any other announcements? All right. Next item is information exchange. This is a chance for counselors to share anything that's been going on with their committees or constituent contacts, things going on in the community, and an update on communications. No, Councilor Bradley has an update to share.
Yeah, I am really excited to announce that fireworks will occur in Freeport on the evening of the 4th. I know we were told at our last meeting that because there was no location that we would be impossible to do it. We put our heads together after the meeting. The key to it was Pine Tree Academy, Brendan Kruger, willingness to donate the use of their site to launch the fireworks. He was just amazing. I mean, he's excited about fireworks. He's loved fireworks his whole life. The people on his staff love fireworks, and they're just really happy to be the site. They were the site for half the fireworks, I guess, at Bean's 100th, and so they know what it's about. With that in hand, just a very spontaneous, positive group of people just kept going at it until all the questions were answered. So LL Bean agreed to keep their $5,000 in play, and also did yeoman's work with the detonator, the contractor who they had been working with, brought them back into the fold, brought those fireworks back into use. The town, again, did its share, and it was really amazing. There were 2 or 3 meetings. Caroline just kept doggedly going after the issues. She raised more issues than I realized could be raised, but she answered them all, and at the end felt comfortable saying, okay. All of our department heads, Paul, Nate, Earl, raised their concerns and talked them out, and then found solutions to them. And so that was cool, and the town graciously agreed to continue its $5,000 support. So that left us essentially $5,000 cash short of the cost of the event. And Tawny Whitney, in her own inimitable way, in an hour raised the $5,000 in a series of phone calls to a group that we are now affectionately referring to as the Firecrackers. And because they were so positive and responsive to the calls, I just want to tell you who they are. It's Bath Savings, it's the Bradley family, it's Buck's Barbecue, it's DeRozier's, it's Desert of Maine, it's Pine Tree Academy, it's Freeport Chamber of Commerce, it's Maine Beer, Maine Oyster Bar, Maine Coast Trust. It's the Mass Landing and Spartan Sea Farms. And really, there was no arm twisting. It was just tell us what and where and when, and it had happened. So the pieces didn't all come together at once, but at the end of the day, those were the pieces. And go Freeport. We're going to have a fireworks display after the Beans concert, about half an hour after the end. We're thinking 9:30. It will be visible from a dedicated parking space, which is called the...
At the end of Howard Place parking lot.
Yeah, Howard Place. So it's sort of, we'll be looking out over the high school fields from that parking lot if people want to dedicate space. And of course, anybody can go anywhere they want in town to watch it. The only caveat about Pine Tree is for reasons related to traffic and safety, there'll be no public viewing from the detonation site. So all viewing will be from town. That's it. I know Caroline has a lot of more details than I have that are more important because they really relate to public safety and hygiene and the details of it. But it was one of the most fun things I've done since I've been on a council, just to have an idea, share it with people who all thought it was a great idea, and every one of them, and worked hard to get answers to it. It was just very, very positive. I'm proud of us as a town. And I think it's important to not only the businesses, but to the people and our residents. And I think they'll be grateful if they ever find out. Go Freeport.
Are you looking for a motion to be the permanent firecracker chairman?
I was the parade dude at one point.
Okay.
That's enough.
Other items for information exchange. I just want to share a plaque that we received from a community group called Lifting Our Voices. in recognition of our adoption of the proclamation for breaking the silence and calling attention to the insidious, pervasive problem of domestic violence. And this group raised funds, raised awareness, and had a whole bunch of community engagement. And this is a plaque that they're sending back to us for our participation in that. So wanted to share that. We'll find a place to hang that up here in Town Hall. So thanks to the group lifting our voices. All right. Next up is our town manager's report. Caroline, what do you have to share?
Okay, so exciting news. No, my mic is not on. You'll have to remind me all meeting.
I will.
So news out of the planning department is there's a state housing bill known as LD 2003 that was supposed to be implemented by municipalities July 1, that those new standards would allow for additional dwelling units on properties. They would give incentives for affordable housing. They would make some requirements to make sure we follow best practices for fair housing, and it would encourage the addition of accessory dwelling units. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a big lift for our department, and we were supposed to have it implemented by July 1, which Freeport and many municipalities were coming up against the clock. So within the past 2 weeks, the state actually changed the deadline. So for Freeport, LD 2003 provisions need to be implemented by January, which is much more reasonable. The planning board's already been talking about different pieces. They just had a workshop with the town attorney last week to better understand some of the impacts. So they will continue to talk about that. We'll continue to have public meetings. There's a lot of questions from the public. We always encourage them to attend the planning board meetings. There is some additional information on the website of the state via the Department of Economic and Community Development if people want to learn about that. But that was a big, timing-wise, that was a big relief that we could have the opportunity to properly get this on the books and get it pushed out to January. We talked at the last meeting, I gave you a report how we're going to need to do some maintenance on the Burnett Road Bridge and how we'd be looking at a one-day closure. We're still waiting for parts. We had originally hoped that we would have it this week, but we don't. Earl said as soon as the parts arrive, he'll make sure that we get at least 48 hours notice to give the public. So we're still waiting for that. And Paul's here tonight, but yesterday they took delivery of the new pumper truck down at the fire department. So I'd say they're pretty excited. They had dozens of members participate in orientation, and they would invite anyone that wants to view it to stop by. I'm sure he could answer questions tonight if you have more questions. So again, counselors, feel free to stop by. John mentioned the Oyster Festival and announcements is this weekend. Visit Freeport's putting that on. We have tried to get word out about the road closure for Nathan Nye, which is something the council already approved. If you feel like you have circles that need to share that, I'd be happy to send that information to the council so you can email it to people that might be interested. We have put it on cable, I believe, and social media to try to get the word out for that. And also, if you're interested, they're still looking for a lot of volunteers. So if you want something to do this weekend, contact Margaret at Visit Freeport because they'll take your help. And then fireworks. Yes, Ed, I asked a lot of questions. So we will be having fireworks in Freeport on the 4th of July. Ed summed it up pretty well. We will be closing the Howard Place parking lot. That's the municipally owned parking lot at the end of Howard Place, kind of behind the gap. We'll be closing that the day before to restrict vehicular traffic in there, so it'll just be for pedestrians, so people will have a chance to view it. Due to construction and making sure we have adequate staffing, construction of the bridge, we want to encourage viewing from downtown Freeport, which is why we are providing that site in the Howard Place parking lot. You will not be able to view the fireworks from Pine Tree Academy where they're going to be shot off. It will be gated and barricaded so that you can't get in there to watch them. And again, that's for public safety to make sure we can keep traffic moving properly. We're still working on an exact time, but hopefully tomorrow everyone will see a pretty flyer that we hope that you will circulate. We do know that while most of us love fireworks in the sense of community, not everybody loves fireworks, particularly those with animals. Due to the new site, we will be doing some public outreach via mailing to people in the vicinity of Pine Trees so that they will be aware that's the launch site for this year, and if they need to make other plans for that night during the fireworks or move their dogs or whatever, they have time to do that. So town hall staff will be working on that this week. That's all I have for you tonight.
Any questions for the manager? Councilor Bradley?
Callie, you'll let the farm know when you pick the date for the bridge?
Yes.
Not just a public announcement, somebody will actually call Dave or?
Yes, and I wrote down at the last meeting that you're my contact for the farm and Thomas Means Club.
So you want me to call?
You said you would. I have it
I'd be
on,
delighted to,
I have it on record.
I will do that. Yeah, delighted.
Yes, we will, but we'll email, but we'll have you do some outreach for us too.
Right. All right, our next item on the agenda is the public comment period. This is the portion of the meeting where we encourage members of the public to come up to the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us what's on your mind. This section of the agenda is reserved for comments and topics that are not on our regular agenda. We're voting on the full budget of the town later this evening, so if you have questions about budget, we can probably find a spot to take some questions or comments later. But if you've got other things that are not on our regular agenda, there's a copy of the agenda on the table over there. This would be the time to come up and tell us what's on your mind. The microphone works, even though it's not pointing at you. It picks up everybody's voice, so the microphone can stay where it is. You don't have to adjust that. But please come up to the podium, tell us who you are, and tell us what's on your mind.
Good evening. My name is Paula Bowie, and I live down off of Flying Point Road in Freeport. And I'm here to just say I'm not really, I think we're going too fast with the electric car thing and all this electric main. I think we need to step back a little bit and really see both sides of the story and really look at it. And you know, and that's just my point of view. And that's all I needed to say. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
My name is Susan Platt. I live on South Street. I too am concerned about the electric cars being put to us. I don't know how soon you want to have that done, but I think it needs more time. I don't think we're really ready for electric cars. If I want to take off and go 300 or 400 miles up the road, I want to make sure I have some way of charging my car up. I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road. And the expense. I'm retired, semi-retired, I should say, and the expense of it, to have to switch to something like that at this point in my life is kind of concerning me. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not really ready for an electric car, but I think some people may be, but I don't think we should have to buy one. I don't think that's should be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? While the microphone is open. Okay, thank you for that, those comments. Our next item on the agenda is where we take action, that's votes. And the first item is the consent agenda, which only has a couple of items. The consent agenda is a listing of routine and ordinary things that the council votes on in bulk. Again, the copy of the consent agenda is on the table over there. This evening's consent agenda includes two items, details of some very generous donations to the Freeport Community Library and the appointment of Kim Anderson True to the Complete Streets Committee, which had its meeting just before the council convened this evening. So those are the two items on the consent agenda. We will get to some other items in a minute. We have 4 budget actions to take this evening, 3 items to vote on for accepting capital equipment bids related to the capital budget, and we have a schedule item. So a few things left after the consent agenda for sure. But I'm going to read the order to, be it ordered that the June 20th, 2023 consent agenda be adopted. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Now we can have any conversation about the consent agenda, any reason to take it out of, any items on the consent agenda off of there and have them open for regular council discussion. Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda? Aye. That passes 6-0, sorry. Count how many people are here. Okay, our next item is item number 120-23, to consider action relative to amending the town council schedule to add August 15th, 2023 as the Bustins Island Annual Meeting. This is to amend or confirm our schedule for the council to convene out on Bustins Island in August. That is one of my favorite meetings of the year. It's fabulous to get out there, and it's a chance for us to interact with the Village Corporation of Bustins Island. Councilor Pillsbury, could you please read the be it ordered?
Sure. Be it ordered that the town council's schedule be amended to add August 15th, 2023 as the Bustins Island Annual Meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments? All right, all in favor of confirming August 15th for our Bustins Island Annual Meeting?
Aye.
All right, 6-0, great. All right, we're going to move on to a number of budget items, items number 121-23, 122-23, and 123-23. The first item is to consider action relative to accepting state funds for our upcoming fiscal year, which starts on July 1. Before we actually convene on, before we actually vote on the budget of spending, we have to accumulate all of the sources that we're going to use to pay for that budget. And one of them is a recitation of additional funding sources that are not from general taxation. And maybe if there's just a 30-second survey or summary of that from our finance director. We have a listing on our agenda, which is pretty self-explanatory, but is there anything there that we should be particularly taking note of, Jessica?
No, I think you summarized it quite well, actually. It's just accepting any state and, grant funding that comes in, so, yeah.
And we don't know, the major item here is municipal sharing. We don't know exactly what that number is yet, or do we have that confirmed?
The state for Freeport in FY '24 estimates or projects 1.2 million.
Okay.
Which is what you have in your budget.
Right. All right, Councilor Fournier, could you please read the be it ordered?
Yes, be it ordered that the following categories for state funds be accepted for fiscal year 2024. Number 1, municipal revenue sharing. Number 2, local road assistance. Number 3, state aid to education, including federal pass-through funds and property pass-through funds and property tax relief. Number 4, public library state aid per capita. Number 5, civil emergency funds that include emergency management assistance. Number 6, snowmobile registration funds. Number 7, tree growth reimbursements. Number 8, veterans expenditures and reimbursements. Number 9, business tax reimbursements. And number 10, all other states funds not included in the items 1 through 9.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. This is a kind of a formality that we're taking an official vote to accept federal funds that are, state funds that are coming our way to offset the burden of taxation on our operating budget. Any questions? Councilor Bradley.
I know that there are other funds that we have used in our budget to reduce the property tax impact that aren't listed here. For instance, ARPA. And was that previously accepted? Is that how why it's not in here?
That's my understanding is that
the ARPA funds were accepted as federal funds, and those were brought to you specifically. These are standard annual, what I'll quote-unquote normal funds that we see throughout every year.
From the
So
state.
that's kind of what differentiates those. ARPA was an exception, yep.
So I can be assured that our finance director has picked up on all of those previously accepted funds, and we can use them.
Yes, you can use them.
Other questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of accepting the state funds as itemized?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Our next item is item number 122-23. This is to take action on the operating budget for Winslow Park. Council Lawrence, could you please read the item?
Sure can. Be it ordered that $404,865 be approved for the Winslow Park budget from July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024, and $23,000 be approved for the Hub Cottage budget from July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Just a reminder that Winslow Park operates somewhat as an enterprise within town government, so they raise their own funds and spend their own budget, generally within their means, with rare exceptions. And one of the methods that they use for that is taking reservations for camping and also leasing out the Harb Cottage, of which they make routine, regular improvements based on that income stream. So this is a vote that we're taking to approve their budget planning process. So the council did not decipher and put this together, but it is part of overall municipal function. Councilor Pillsbury.
I will just say, I'm the liaison to the Winslow Park Commission, and they're incredibly fiscally responsible, and this is all self-funded, and they have adequate reserves, and they're doing a really good job managing expenses and growing revenue.
I would concur, I agree. It's an excellent model that maybe we could look at other activities within town to operate as such. Any other questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the Winslow Park budget for FY '24?
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0. All right, our next item is the operating budget for the town of Freeport, item number 123-23. This is the result of an enormous amount of work, an enormous number of revisions by our finance team and department heads after extensive input from both the council and the public. We had at least 2 public hearings and at least 6 meetings where we took public comment on the operating budget, and so it has been through quite a process. The marks of hammering on it are still visible. The details of the general categories are listed in the item, and it does result in a modest tax increase to the overall mill rate. The town's portion of the overall mill rate is 23% or so of the tax bill, the town's operating budget. So our increase on the town budget has a much smaller impact on the overall mill rate because the town's operating budget is only 23% of the overall tax bill. It's roughly 6.4% projected, but there's good reason to think that with adjustments in valuation and potentially some additional funding coming through, that will go down. And I'll just highlight for historical purposes that the mill rate was decreased in this community for 10 years in a row, starting in 2010. The last 2 years was kept flat, and so it's not a surprise that we have to absorb some kind of a modest increase. My understanding in summary is that a substantial portion, well over 50% of that increase, is due to pay adjustments and step increases in benefits in order to attract and retain our highly qualified staff on our team and fill all our positions. And the other bulk of the remaining increases are a result of our activity, adding some positions to get more things done with town government. So those are the 2 big drivers of the increase. One of them, I think we heartily endorse to try and attract and retain quality people in our positions, and the other one directly has our fingerprints on it because we're adding some positions for better service in our community. So let's get it read and seconded, and then we can have some discussion about how it sits if anybody has questions. Councilor Daniele, could you please read the item?
Be it ordered that the following appropriations be made to the several departments for purposes named, that the following revenues estimated be adopted, and that the following amounts to be raised by taxation, said action for fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024 municipal budget.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Take note that the uses of the town operating budget are on the top half of that box, and the sources are on the bottom. Also, please take note that a little over half of the overall operating budget is what we raise from property tax collection from the community. We have significant other sources that help defray that cost, and I don't want to underestimate the opportunity here to highlight the $850,000 that we are putting back into the operating budget to reduce tax bills that come from the efficient operation of this town government. That's a dollar amount that our finance director works hard to preserve, and I think is a reflection of our fiscal responsibility to manage whenever we can during the fiscal year, having unspent funds or undesignated funds that we plow them back into the budget the following year to keep taxes modest. Other questions? Councilor Fournier.
As we started the process, I was very concerned at a 17% increase. As a lot of you know, up here, we had the discussions. I'm really pleased we got to this point. I think the staff did a good job. I know there's some cuts were made that some people were disappointed in, but I hope the lesson we learned here, number one, it's important to maintain our pay scale for our employees so we don't end up in this particular situation again, and we've addressed that, and I'm glad. I think that's probably one of the most important things we could accomplish in this budget, and again, thank you to the staff for coming in to have a relatively modest increase, so thank you very much.
All right, I don't see any other questions or comments. We're ready to vote. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the FY24 operating budget for the town of Freeport?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. That's an enormous amount of work that we just did in 4 seconds. Thank you all for all of the contributions to that process, and especially to our finance director for holding the juggling plates and changing numbers and pencil and erasing that we went through to get to that. All right, the next item is item number 124-23. This is our capital budget for the upcoming year. We've had numerous council meetings and workshops with department heads as well as community members throughout the spring and late winter, at least 5 that I can count, to get to the capital plan, which we adopted a couple of meetings ago. This is the actual budget for the fiscal year of items over $10,000, I think, is the threshold for a capital budget for a specific item that has an extended useful life. So this is not salaries. This is not things we consume. This is the hard stuff that we purchase and become assets for the town. This is a significant size of capital budget. We had been planning for a number of particular high-dollar items, and again, I'm just amazed, I've been doing this a while, that we can spend $3 million on a capital budget out of reserves because of our fiscal discipline, that we are able to reserve for these items and not have to pass a $3 million capital expense on to the taxpayers because we've been reserving for it all along. Ultimately, obviously, all of the revenue in the reserve account comes from property taxes and other sources, but to be able to, in a single year, execute a $3 million capital budget without having an impact on the mill rate, I think is significant, and again, reflects the excellent planning and management of this process by our finance director. All right. Councilor Bradley, could you please read the be it ordered?
Be it ordered that the following appropriations be made for the capital items or projects listed below, and that the capital budget for fiscal year 2024 be adopted as presented on the agenda, totaling $3,039,750.
Second.
I'd be delighted to read all of them, but I think we all know what they are, and we're the only ones here.
Any other questions about the capital budget?
Is there, be it further ordered, and,
I'm sorry. Yep, on to the next page.
Be it further ordered that the following amounts be appropriated from the reserve funds to provide for items approved as presented on the agenda, totaling $3,039,750. And again, be it further ordered that the following appropriations be made for the items and projects listed below, and the Destination Freeport TIF budget for fiscal year 2024 be adopted as presented below, totaling $324,000. Be it further ordered that the following appropriations from the ARPA funding be made for items and projects listed below, totaling $119,500. There are details for each one of the numbers that I've listed. We've been through them in great detail, so we know what they are. If there's anybody in the public who would like them read, who's here, we'd be glad to do it. But these documents are available to anybody in the public who would like to know exactly what we're spending the money on. So I'll stop there.
Second.
Thank you. We've been through it, but any questions or comments before we take the vote and adopt it?
I guess I'd like to sort of say this, that this must seem summary to people who are just watching it for the first time, if anyone is. But it does, as John says, represents months of work led by Jess, and all of us have had inputs into this. Some of them have been accepted, some of them haven't. It's not that we all are 100% happy with every number that's here. It's that we all respect the process. We're confident that it was a good process. We respect one another, and we think we've done a good job for the town. So it's just the end of a long game that started way, way long time ago, longer than I can actually remember. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the capital budget and all its subsequent appropriations?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes 6-0. All right, we have a couple of items that we're going to accept bids on and actually deploy this year's capital budget for some of these activities, as well as some funds from the upcoming fiscal year. Item number 125-23. This is related to a loader-mounted snow blower for Public Works Department. Councilor Pillsbury, we're back to you.
be it ordained that the bid for a new loader-mounted snow blower be awarded to Viking Sieves of Lewiston, Maine, in the amount of $171,547.
Do you want to read the note?
Nope.
Okay, I second
Any questions? We have our Public Works Director available about exactly what is a loader-mounted snow blower. Councilor Fournier?
I'm very supportive of this. I'm pleased that they are going now with a hydraulic-operated snow blower as opposed to a mechanically operated snow blower, and the reason for that is in my part-time job on the base, we have a mechanically operated snow blower. It's been broken now for a year, and parts are just coming in for this. This will be a lot more efficient, and we'll get a lot more use out of it with a lot less maintenance. So I want to thank the Public Works Director for moving us from the mechanical operation to the hydraulic operation, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm very supportive of this. I think it's the right direction to go.
Thank you. Any bow ties you want to wrap around this, Mr. Gibson?
No, this just allows us to do our wintertime cleanups. And without it, it would be a real hindrance. It really would.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the device that is significantly large and sits where the front bucket of a front-end loader would normally be and goes right down the street?
It goes right down the street. We
With a
can
dump
load
truck next to it?
An actual dump truck in 13 seconds.
Yep.
That gives you sort of an idea of how fast this thing moves. Cool. And, you know, depending on our winters, when you get hit, that's when it's important.
Yeah.
That's when you're trying to move a lot of snow.
Fantastic. Any other questions for Mr. Gibson? All right. Excellent job budgeting. I mean, you're within, like, coffee money here of what we predicted, so fantastic.
I would like to add one thing. We did get lucky. This machine is actually sitting over in Lewiston right now. So tomorrow morning, I will
get
let
it.
them know that we'll purchase it. We won't have to wait on getting it. It's here.
Great, great. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we got a new hydraulic snow blower. Thank you. Hang on, because we got a couple more items here.
And he's going to wait till July 1.
For snow, too.
Can I get a ride with that thing?
Well, yeah, we can work that out.
Our next capital purchase item is to award a bid for a plow truck chassis tandem. Councilor Fornia, could you please read the be it ordained?
Certainly. Be it ordained that the bid for a new plow truck chassis tandem be awarded to Freightliner of Maine of Westbrook, Maine, in the amount of $157,736.
Second?
All right. Any questions for Mr. Gibson on this particular truck purchase? What's the use of it, Earl?
It's one of our plow trucks, and I'd like to give, I know I give you a description in my memo, but this is also the truck that we're changing the gear out on. So I will be coming back to you hopefully in about 3 or 4 weeks with another one where we're going to take the gear off of one of our old trucks to put on this truck. However, we have to get this truck here before we're allowed to do that. I do anticipate this being a pretty good savings when we're done.
Fantastic. Councilor Daniele?
Do you think the $92,000 remaining will be enough to cover the gear swap and everything?
Very much so, yeah.
Thank you.
I will probably make Miss Jessica happy. She'll get some of that money back. So,
That's not a bad thing to do.
it's not.
Councilor Fornia?
Just a reminder for the council, this is that truck we're going to try putting the other gear on and moving a body on. So this really is going to be a test.
Yeah.
I hope it works. We think it will, but if it doesn't, at least we tried. So I'm glad we're making an attempt to see if we can get, do things a little bit differently and hopefully get some more life and some savings. So I'm
And
anxious to see
that's
how
in
it works.
contrast to buying a whole new truck and chassis and all the gear. So we're saving what is savable and replacing what needs to be replaced. Great, I agree with that. Any other questions? All right, been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And the very last item for action on the capital budget is item number 127-23, and it's for awarding a bid for a new ambulance. Councilor Lawrence, could you please read the item?
Sure. Be it ordained that the bid for a new ambulance be awarded to Autotronic in the amount of $432,324.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions?
All of a sudden, I thought I was in church. Ordained, is that the right word?
Yeah, when we're awarding a bid.
Interesting. God be with us.
We have Chief Connolly here to explain the specs on the new ambulance. If anybody had any questions, Councilor Fornia?
Is it the right color, chief?
It is the same color scheme as the,
Please step up to the mic, Chief, so everybody can hear. Sorry.
Rescue 5, the last one we purchased.
Oh, so you changed the color, okay.
Yeah, we debated, the price of these things come in astronomical, I mean, compared to anything. I mean, I come here, 27 years ago, first ambulance I bought was $85,000. You look at the price tag of them today. And so we had to make some tough choices. And basically a paint job to kind of go back to all thing was like, I got to save the money.
Fine, just curious.
What color does it end up being, Chief?
It will be white, Ford white, and with a red belt line.
Right. Okay. So we had conversation about this particular item when we were going through the capital plan. and knowing that it was on the agenda for this coming fiscal year for purchase. And we have successfully navigated the bid and ready to move forward on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
new ambulance carries 6-0. It is 10-7, and that is the end of our agenda.
I move we adjourn. Unbelievable.
I was gonna say, maybe you should keep doing this. It's great.
What's wrong with you?
Dan Stone.
I think we'll take well, we have a motion to adjourn from Councilor Bradley. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Yahoo! I want to say, I
Adjourned.
appreciate working with all of you on the budget. It was a really substantive process from my perspective, and, you know, it's again, as I said, not everybody got exactly what they wanted or even anything they wanted, but it was really a good process.
I think I agree. The process this year was great.
Yeah.
We walked through, we talked about it a lot.
And that, a lot
No
of that.
changes at the end are nice.
And a lot of that's Jess, I got to say. I mean, I can't tell you how many times she agreed to sit down and answer picky little questions and, you know, half an hour here, an hour there, and it made it worthwhile.
I agree. Her command of the details is phenomenal. Makes it easy to go through when you get that kind of confidence. And thank you all for a really healthy process. We scrubbed on everything we could, and I'm hoping that by the time we get halfway through the year, we'll have some better news that the increase is not actually going to be anywhere near 6.4%. So.
Well, that wasn't ever the way.
Yes.
You can't be sitting on that wall, can you?
No,
On the what?
I was not. I was had it right here.
I know.
Yeah.